Can you count to 10 for me?
5, 12, 36, 84, 100.
You be on some bull, you be acting up. I've been trying to do it good, trying to keep it up.
Your father was one of the youngest old men that I had ever met.
I be going out of my way and going out of my way.
Ours was really cafeteria talk about what you preaching, Doc.
But I ain't tripping off you. You can thank me later. You can thank me later.
At 20, your father was on campus with gators. Really, I mean, and gators in different colors that matched the suit. He was wearing Arsenio Hall ties, doing it all. I came over there on an occasion, and your father was preaching, and they was running through that building, and all of us was like, this guy is in school with us. I didn't know about you while I was at Morehouse.
This is what I do, this is what I do. And it don't even matter, I'm a real winner. You ain't gotta.
I came to Atlanta for something for Dewey, and he mentioned you in passing. So I was like, man, did y'all freeze his sperm?
I'm a boss with it, but you ain't never had to count up the cost with it. If you wanna play around, that's your loss. Yeah, this is what I do, this is what I do. And it don't even matter, I'm a real winner.
All phones on silent, all phones on vibrate,
Yeah.
silent vibrate, please, thank you. All right, I'm rolling.
Rolling?
On you.
We good? Okay. Dr. Bryant.
Yes.
Thank you so much for doing this, for being a part of this. So you know we got this film coming out. It's a docu-film about my father's life and legacy.
Yes.
And how I kind of continue this spiritual kind of trajectory of him dying at Morehouse and me actually coming in to finish Morehouse and go to Harvard to take the name and legacy with me. But we know that you were a classmate of his.
Yes.
And you hung out around the same time, and so we want to kind of get your experience, your perspective, memories, and all of that. So first, how did you meet him? What was your first encounter, your interaction? Did you hang out on the yard?
Yes.
What were some on and off campus experiences in college days, revivals, church? Tell me about all of that.
Your father was one of the youngest old men that I had ever met. I met him with E. Dewey Smith. Both of them were already hot on the youth revival circuit. Most of us were from outside of Atlanta. Dewey at the time was pastoring in Macon, and your dad was assisting your grandfather, and they was coming to campus with briefcases and wearing three-piece suits and black shoes, and then flying out on Thursday to go do a youth revival somewhere. So my experience with him was really just on campus, because most of his free time, to my remembrance, he was a full-time preacher while a student. Both he and Dewey at the time, Craig Oliver was at Marsh Brown. So the three of them really had Georgia on lock in terms of the Baptist world. I was a chapel assistant, and so as being a chapel assistant, we used to have a midweek service at Sale Hall, and we're over our services on Sunday. Your dad really was not a part of our services on Sunday because he had to handle his responsibility. I could be wrong, but I think he was a religion major. While there I was political science. So ours was really cafeteria talk. About what you preaching, Doc. Did you see this in the text, and where you going next week? And so really his relatability with us was different because he had the experience we were aspiring to. He was with no gas up. He was ahead of his time, and God had him in an accelerated track, knowing that he wouldn't have the full spans of his life as we saw it. Just to think what E. Dewey is doing, what Craig is doing. Your father would have been ahead of both of them because he was the only one of them who was indigenous to Atlanta. Right. And already had a base. So I shudder to think what would be the impact in the city had God extended his life longer. He was an amazing preacher. And I'll say, if you listen to the footage, as I'm sure you have, he was never a youth preacher. So I was preaching movies and songs and cartoons, and your father was preaching Matthew Henry. He was doing exegesis. I was doing none of that.
I remember in school studying about a French philosopher by the name of Jean-Paul Sartre. And this philosopher came up with a theory known as atheistic existentialism. Now, this may be a little too heavy for some of you to understand. But in this theory, he has a principle. He has a foundation for this theory, and that is that existence precedes essence. Meaning this, that by the nature of the essence, one can logically conclude or infer that there must have been an existing creator. What I mean is this. Let me make it clear. If you, by studying the creation, one can you have to logically see that there must be a creator, because a creation cannot make itself.
Of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Well, what happens when I get impatient? Isaiah says, they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up.
I was playing around with it, but just growing up in the Baptist convention with your dad, he was a product of the late night convention. I'm just remembering now, I didn't meet your father through E. Dewey. I met your dad through A. Lewis Patterson. So A. Lewis Patterson III, his father was a titan in the National Baptist Convention. Your grandfather was a gatekeeper for late night. A. Lewis's father was the gatekeeper for the morning glory service. So to see those two tributaries of thought come together, and so my relationship spawned out of being close to A. Lewis Patterson. So I remember going to Mount Carmel and listening to your father from the balcony. So I came over there on an occasion, and your father was preaching, and they was running through that building, and all of us was like, this guy is in school with us.
He met me one Wednesday, riding along in a car. I heard my old father preaching, sightseeing in heaven. Something struck me from the crown of my head to the end of my toe. I felt light. My mouth flew out. I had to pull the car over. I said, yes, Lord, here I am. Take me. Take me. Take me. Hey, take me. Won't he do it? Did it take you? Yeah. Woo.
It was just a wonder to see, and his aura, his presence was one who was vastly mature, and so he. We was living off of Steagle's chicken wings on wheat. Yeah, I mean, and even back then he was eating at Pascal's. We was college students, and he had a knot of 20s in his pocket. Back then we all had. Where is it that we would go? Your father at 20.
International man.
Yes, yeah. At 20, your father was on campus with gators. Really, I mean, and gators in different colors that matched the suit. He was wearing Arsenio Hall ties, doing it all. And again, was just a guy who was ahead of his time. I'll never forget when we got the news of his passing. We were called into an assembly in King Chapel, and Dean Carter had to give us the news, and all of us it was like the Twilight Zone in a bad dream. Nobody could believe. He didn't have one enemy, one foe on the campus. And so that day, I still remember, it was an overcast day. And we were called into Crown Forum, which is Thursdays at 11, and given that news. And everybody just sat still. It wasn't any great outcry because it was surreal for us. I remember going to the funeral at Mount Carmel, and you couldn't get a parking space. Forget a seat. Mm-hmm. You couldn't get a parking space for 2 blocks of the church. Wow. Every great giant, preaching giant in the Baptist faith was there that day. And I remember it. You can go back and watch it. It's probably on VHS somewhere. That most of the people which stood out for me in that funeral, 95% of the people on the program were not his peers. They were all legends. These were Baptist titans, and all of us who were his classmates were in the balcony, and we was mad. I'm telling you right now, we was mad. Your grandfather ain't putting none of us on the program. And we didn't even have reserved seats. We was arguing with the ushers. Hey, this is our guy. Go upstairs, sir. And so I remember that. I remember that day, the hole that seemed to be in the heart of your grandfather. He couldn't even stand that day. All of the preachers really just walked through and just rubbed his back, because there were really no words. Your grandfather, as you very well know, has always been full of life, been the life of the party, fills the room, always got a million jokes in his back pocket. And that day I saw him in a way I hadn't.
This morning, I said I wasn't going to stand no more than 5 or 10 minutes, because I know if I had gone, Ari would not have allowed anyone to stand over me. We had just that close fellowship. And I owe it to it to stand here. Yes, I'm hurting and I'll cry. I'm not superhuman. I tell my wife, cry. We're not superhuman. Jesus was better than we are, and he cried. But in your crying, don't stop.
I started going to your grandfather to preach in honor of your father. Your grandfather's never sent a letter to my church. He's never gone through the chain of command. For many times I've had to cancel stuff I had on the book because I felt I owed that to your dad. I became close to your grandfather by virtue of that. Prior, I didn't have any real relationship. Your grandfather invited me to camp meeting because he had seen me on the Word Network. So by that time, my ministry had taken off. And I came to camp meeting that year and told him I accepted it because I was a friend of your dad. And that's where our relationship grew. And I'm just honored and I marvel to see the man that you have become in the absence of your biological father, or even having real concrete memories of him. But I would say to you, as his Morehouse brother and friend, he would be proud of you and proud of the man that you are becoming. And all of us are cheering for you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, but you didn't know about me.
No.
Till when? When did you?
So I didn't know about you. I didn't know about you while I was at Morehouse. Yeah. Maybe I may not have known about you until Dewey got to Atlanta. So I don't know how many years he's been in Atlanta. But it's some kind of way you are related to Dewey?
Yeah, cousins.
Yes, okay. So I came to Atlanta for something for Dewey.
Be seated. Be seated. 6 minutes, Dougie Fresh, you on. You may be seated. All right, watch this. Be seated, please. The old people used to say, I wish somebody would just catch on fire. I wish somebody would just catch on fire. We don't need no water. Let the Holy Ghost burn. Burn, Holy Ghost, burn. Can I talk to some old school praisers? The roof is on fire. We don't need no matches. Let this burst burn.
And he mentioned you in passing. So I was like, man, did y'all freeze his sperm? I didn't know what was happening. Yeah, I didn't know what he meant. Yeah, really. Because I didn't, and by that time you had to have been in middle school, at least. You had to be in middle school before I even knew that you were alive in the earth. But I think I learned of it through Dewey. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. One last question.
Yes.
What advice do you have for me coming into ministry with this kind of disconnect, with also a connection kind of spiritually, if we think ancestrally, right? Like the ancestors move through our being as the generations continue. So I believe I carry his spirit and his aura, his mantle. What is your advice for me as an up-and-coming minister with that legacy on my shoulders?
Yeah, I think you carry his mantle, but you don't carry his burden, which is a blessing. So the generation that you are going to minister to doesn't know your grandfather. And you would be running at a disadvantage if your father was pastoring in this city. And I don't know if you would even know how to appreciate it, but finding your own voice. So you are classically a rebel without a cause. And so all of what it is that you represent in ministry, these dreads, you wouldn't have them if your father was alive. you wouldn't be having these 2 chains on. You'd be in a suit because while we were wearing crisscross and Timberlands, your father never wore that. He was more conservative than any of us. Or you may be doing all of this. The beauty is that you are painting on a blank canvas and able to move forward. The reality is it is hard to be a success if your father is successful. So Ronald Reagan's son is a failed ballerina. Michael Jordan's sons never made it past JV. And so when you look at the landscape of the black church, most sons of great preachers can't preach. Because they are able to have their father's success without knowing his sweat and sacrifice. So God knew in the intention of your future that you needed that missing integer. And as crazy as it sounds now, it's going to make you a better preacher. That God had to skip a generation in order to get to you.
Thank you, man.
No, thank you. Proud of you.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Give it up, don't you give it in. If you hold on, I promise you gon' win. You can make it back, you can make it back, you can make it back, you can make it back. Don't let them take your joy away. Don't let them take your joy away.
And I am the rebirth.